All right, I guess we're recording. Cool. So, decided to make a video. Wanted to break my silence. It's been quite a while since I made one of these. And I was looking through just my YouTube channel, and I noticed about a year ago I had made this video called "Are We Living in a Simulation?" So I was like, "Oh wow, yeah, I've been thinking about this for quite some time." So I want to talk a little bit about simulation theory, which is this notion or idea or theory, hypothesis that what we are living in is some sort of a simulation. And basically, what some of the latest research that's coming out of this high energy nuclear physicist um, realm is that they've determined that space time is not fundamental. Now, just briefly, kind of what that means is that all of our physics, all of our scientific understanding up until this point is based on the notion that space time is the most fundamental thing in our reality, right? In our universe, that everything is made up of or is related to or somehow dependent upon and originating from right, space and time. But actually what they've been finding is that there comes a point where they can't go any deeper into it, and it's puzzled them because it's kind of like this. If you think of space and time as like the pixels on your computer screen or your television screen or what have you, there's a limited number of pixels, right? And all the images that we see are created from various configurations of the light and color within each of those pixels. Now, if we were in a universe where like the screen was all that exists, and we're trying to understand what is the fundamental nature of reality, we start digging deeper and deeper and deeper, and eventually we discover these things called pixels, right? Or kind of like quarks, the smallest thing that we can actually discover. And then we're like, okay, well, here's this pixel, and it's this size, has this shape, and this, kind of structure. And then we say, well, what's smaller than that, right? We want to look and see what's inside of it, but actually we can't. There's nothing smaller than that. It's like, well, wait a minute, how is this possible? In the same way that if we had 5,000 pixels on a screen, let's say, and we can narrow it down to one pixel, and we're like, okay, well, what's smaller than that? And we try to cut that in half, but it's not possible. We can't measure anything smaller than a pixel. So it's strange. This is what they've been finding with space-time, is that it breaks down in this way at 10 to the minus 43 seconds in time and 10 to the minus 33 centimeters, I believe, is what it is. And it breaks down. It can't go any smaller. So what some of these physicists and scientists are purporting or theorizing is that perhaps consciousness is what's fundamental. Perhaps everything comes out of and is born out of consciousness and not space and time, but actually space time is born of consciousness itself. So this is sort of the paradigm they're exploring. Now, this is not different from the paradigm that ancient religions and philosophies put forth, which is like this universe we're living in is Maya, is illusion, right? It's Leela, it's God's play, but it is not real. And so this kind of draws a parallel there. And so they also thought that the reality is consciousness. They said consciousness is Shiva, right? Is the unmanifest, is the formless, nameless, infinite one being. And that is the reality, that's the fundamental nature of all existence. So, in any case, if space-time is not fundamental and consciousness is, well, there's a lot of collateral things to consider. There's a lot of things to contemplate about this. And so one of the things I've been thinking about recently is a lot having to do with fulfillment and purpose. And like finding fulfillment and finding purpose in our lives. I think that's like what a lot of us are doing, whether it's conscious or unconscious. I mean, realistically, everyone's trying to seek fulfillment in some way, even if it's just fulfilling their gut, right? Or fulfilling their most base desires. They're still, moving towards greater and greater fulfillment. Now, the problem is we often look for fulfillment in places where it doesn't exist. We get lost in these eddies, right? Let's say of mimetic desire. When we look around, we see, oh, this person's done this thing, that person has that thing. I want that thing because it looks cool because they have it. And so this mimetic desire often takes us down roads of unfulfillment, right? Because we put all this time and energy to create this thing or to get this thing to, get this relationship or to buy this product or whatever it is that we think is going to, fulfill us. and we put a lot of time and energy and effort into aligning with that thing, and then we get the thing, we bring it into our experience, and then we find out, oh, that was cool, but that's not fulfilling. That's not really what I wanted. And so now we look for the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. Or some people get, caught in addictive cycles where, for instance, they might, let's say a heroin addict is seeking fulfillment in the heroin, right? But every time he uses it, he gets that temporary fix, but then it goes away and he has to seek that fulfillment again. But it never actually leads to fulfillment. And maybe there's something in that person's life that would lead to fulfillment, but they never take the time and energy to invest in it because they're so caught in this loop, in this cycle of chasing the thing which doesn't fulfill them. And so I was talking about this last night, actually, with a couple people, and one woman said, well, everything in life is like that. Everything that exists in matter is like that. The fulfillment doesn't exist in those things. I was like, yes, that's exactly what I was trying to point to, is that if space and time aren't fundamental, then obviously fulfillment can't be found in that which is not fundamental. And we can have a good time. We can have great experiences. Nothing wrong with experiencing things. It's just when we're seeking our fulfillment in these things and then we don't find it, we end up becoming dissatisfied. We become frustrated. We develop this sort of ennui, sense of lack, right? Or there should be more to life than just this, right? So recognizing this can get us out of the trap. We can start to question the things that we've been seeking, right? What is the thing that's actually going to lead to fulfillment? And first and foremost, right, I have to let go of chasing the things that don't lead to fulfillment, because there's a lot of energy and attention and focus and drive wrapped up in those things that I'm seeking. And that energy could be used to discover more profound or sublime truth about what my life means, what is my actual purpose, what could I do with my life that would lead to greater and greater fulfillment. So in this sense, I started to contemplate this, and some analogies came to mind. And that is like the things we're seeking, coming back to the simulation theory, they're like icons on our screen, right? Folders. And so we think that if we get that folder and open it and discover the packets inside will contain fulfillment. Mm-hmm. And so we're seeking after these icons, right? The icons are they're just symbols. They're symbols that represent what we think we need to attain or become or achieve or get in order to experience fulfillment. So those icons, like, okay, the perfect relationship, the perfect business, or the new house, whatever it is, right? Not that these are great things to pursue, but if we pursue them from a state of lack, from a state of unfulfillment, and thinking falsely that our fulfillment lies in the opening of that packet, we're going to be sorely mistaken and sorely disappointed when we get that thing, because the relief that we'll feel is temporary, and it's not a deep fulfillment that can be cultivated and that can grow, in my experience, right? So what I've been exploring is recognizing what are the icons that I've been seeking fulfillment in, and then bringing them to mind and recognizing that, oh, the fulfillment doesn't actually exist in that. The fulfillment is fundamental to the consciousness, which is looking for it, right? The consciousness which is seeking it. We've all heard probably the saying before that, like, you are the fulfillment that you are seeking. Well, what does that mean? It doesn't mean the personality, the person I take myself to be. There's no fulfillment there. Again, that's just another icon. But what am I in essence? My most basic, essential nature is this consciousness that most of us overlook. Like, we don't even realize that it exists, but it's fundamental to everything that we are and every experience that we have. But it's like the fish looking for water. It's like it doesn't see it because it's everywhere. It's all it's ever known. So we don't recognize this consciousness. Most people don't meditate. It does take, a lot of proper, I would say, sincere and dedicated and disciplined meditation, like over years, to actually start to contact and experience consciousness in and of itself. Consciousness devoid of an object of consciousness. So pure consciousness. And however, in so doing, in the discovery of this consciousness, now it took me some practice here, because at first when I contacted it, the consciousness it seemed very small. It was just like, oh, here's a little orb of consciousness that I'm in, I'm aware of, I am it, but it's not this infinite consciousness, right? It wasn't my experience of infinite consciousness, right? Which is what we're kind of talking to, the source of all, including all fulfillment. But what I did was I began to contemplate, meditate. The contemplation would take me into the meditation, right? Just looking within. That's really what contemplation is. It's not thinking about stuff. I mean, you might pose a question. This is how it often works for me. I pose a question, but then I just look. Not with the eyes, just awareness. See what arises out of this question. What truth might I discover? Or what insight might arise? What might I see that I didn't see before? Just from observing. Pose the question and observe. So that contemplation took me into this meditation, and then from the meditation state, the awareness, the consciousness became noticeable. I began to attend to it with the mind, we could say. And the mind began to get absorbed into it. And at a certain point, it's like, oh, there's consciousness. It's here. It's just right here, just this. Now, here's where it went a little deeper, which is very cool, is that I had a forethought, because of the contemplation, to ask, or to remind myself, let's say, like this, just this. This is it. Just this. This is what I'm seeking. This is what I've been looking for. It's just this. And even though it may feel and seem very small, let's not discount that. Let's keep the awareness here and just observe this and remind myself, this is it. This is everything I've been wanting. This is everything I've been seeking. This is the source of the fulfillment. And again, I'm not really just repeating this stuff. It's just the reminder, and then looking, sensing, being, just this, nothing else. And after a period of time of just holding this awareness, of just this little space of consciousness, wherever I found it, not an object, but the very thing which is looking at objects, or which is going to find something. The movement of attention, we could say. And as I saw the attention move, I said, oh, that which is moving, it's just that. And again, it seemed very small, but as I held my awareness on that, after a period of time, it's as if something opened up in the space all around me. And that awareness filled that space. The consciousness seemed to go from being very small and contained to very suddenly merging with the space all around it, and all around me, and all around everything. And it was like, whoa, just this. Huh. But now it's not just this little thing, it's just this big, all-pervasive consciousness that is free from attachment, we could say, or becoming distracted into, or some sort of object of consciousness, some distraction coming up. No, it's just the pure space of awareness. Yes, there are things appearing in the awareness, but none of that is very important. And so what began to happen is this deep, deep sense of fulfillment starts permeating my being. Now, it's not being generated by something, some icon in my mind, or some acquisition of some object or experience. This is fulfillment being born straight out of consciousness with no apparent stimulus. The fulfillment of knowing directly one's own consciousness and being. Now, from this place, it seems like a much better starting point or platform to move towards whatever purpose or meaning or intuitive drives are motivating me. And so these motivations and drives now will not come from seeking fulfillment. They won't come from feeling like I'm not enough as I am. Okay, so again, the language is could be interpreted many ways. So I want to try to be clear, which is obviously if we do really awesome things in our lives, we're going to have some sense of fulfillment. But generally, that sense of fulfillment isn't lasting. Because it's dependent on the icon, right? And we're setting up the game in such a way as to limit our sense of fulfillment and only allow us to experience it when we get these icons. We open up the packets and then we're like, yes, I'm so fulfilled. And then that feeling goes and we seek more packets. But when we can cultivate and experience the fulfillment that is not dependent on packets or icons, but is spontaneously generated from consciousness itself, then this changes the game for us, because not being driven by this sense of, I need this to feel fulfilled. I need to do this to make my life meaningful. I need to get this in order to feel okay. I need to prove myself in this way that I'm good enough. I need to, whatever these drives are. Nothing wrong with going and creating those things. Nothing wrong with developing ourselves in that way. Those are all good things. But if we're doing it because we're not enough, because there's something, this deep longing inside of us that's lack, we'll never get that filled by seeking icons and packets and objects and things. That only comes from the source, which is the consciousness itself. That level of fulfillment can't be generated by the acquisition of things. And if we pursue things in that way, we will end up becoming depressed, frustrated, resentful, victimized, all these, life is a struggle. When I already have my sense of fulfillment and satisfaction within, right? This doesn't mean that I'm going to become suddenly unmotivated to do anything. Well, I'm good. I don't need to do anything. No, it's actually quite the opposite. It's like, okay, well, I'm good. I feel good. I feel fulfilled. I'm not missing anything in my life. There's no nagging longing of, I need this to be okay inside. And so I can actually just do the things that I choose to do, which I feel are going to enrich my life and the lives of others that I care about and the world in general. So I'll arrange my life in a way as to set that as like my compass point, and not, I need to get this to feel okay. I need to do this to prove myself. I need to own that thing so that I can compete, in the social structure, whatever it is, right? Again, and if you want to have and do and create those things, go for it. But if you could do it, think about this. What if you already had the feeling of deep, deep fulfillment that didn't depend on your past accomplishments or your current life situation, but it came from somewhere deeper, and it was, again, not dependent on those things, so it wasn't threatened by the loss of those things. So this is freedom. And from freedom, limitless possibility of what can be created. If I'm so convinced that I need this thing in order to be satisfied and fulfilled, that's a very narrow and limiting way of approaching life. And then again, what if I get the thing, I open the packet and I discover, man, it wasn't what I thought it was. Got fooled again. So this is a radical idea. So it's a completely different modality and paradigm of operating within. And it's not going to obliterate space and time. Space and time are still functioning, right? We're still experiencing them. But the consciousness, which is the source of the space and time, is also the source of the fulfillment. The fulfillment doesn't exist in space and time. So nothing that exists in space and time actually contains or is the source of fulfillment. I guess that's really what I wanted to say with this video. Just kind of open the conversation. Again, it's been a while. It's been a year of reflection and work and training, contemplation, correcting errors within myself, realizing that I still needed to do a lot of work in certain areas, and just putting in the time and effort and doing it. And so the fruit of that effort, I just wanted to share with you, and hopefully it gives you some benefit as well. At least something to think about, something to contemplate, and maybe question some of the things that you've been seeking and chasing and believing that they will lead to fulfillment. And maybe before spending too much more time and effort chasing those things, you can recognize that some of those things are probably goals that you could shift into something that would be, like, for instance, having the goal of contacting consciousness through meditation and awakening to what that actually is, not a theory of what it is or a belief about what it is or someone else's idea of what it is, but a direct experience of what that is, because I put the time and effort and discipline myself. That's, in my opinion, that's a very, very worthy goal, and it is one that can lead you into discovering the source of fulfillment within yourself, which, again, to me is one of the most radical freedoms that we could ever experience. So I'll leave you with that. Appreciate you watching. I'll see you on another one. I'm going to be doing some more of these soon. So until then.